What's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday morning. Mikey McNuggets coming at you. Solo edition of the Ultimate Cavs Show, Cavs and Coffee, whatever you want to call it. Let's spend 15 minutes and talk a little Cavs because on the main UCSS show today, we will not be talking any basketball. So we're going to dive into a couple of things. Got a few things on my mind as we are in the doldrums of the summer season. A lot of the Cavs guys are back at home doing their individual workouts for their offseason programs. There are very few players in the Cleveland area getting team training, team treatment, etc. So there's not a whole lot going on, which leads to a lot of hypotheticals, a lot of rankings. And one of those rankings is what I want to discuss today. I found this online yesterday, and a Twitter handle / podcast / website called Numbers on the Board. It's a pretty good podcast. I've actually listened quite a few times, and I do enjoy some of their content. Put out their top 25 under 25 rankings. And the Cavaliers have two guys on the under 25 list that qualify, or at least could qualify, to be considered one of the 25 best 25 and under players in the league. Those two, Evan Mobley and Darius Garland. So the question is, where do those two rank among the NBA's best 25 players under the age of 25? When I first got asked that question, before I even looked at the rankings, two names immediately came to mind as absolute no-brainers. As much as I love Evan Mobley, there is simply no way in hell you could put Evan Mobley over those two. And that's Victor Wembanyama and Anthony Edwards. And then I think everyone else past those two, you could at least make an argument, have a discussion, make a case for Mobley being higher and or lower than a few other guys. And I'll give you those names in a second. Darius is a little further down the list, but I think he for sure is on the top 25 under 25. It's just a matter of where. Now, before we dive into the actual rankings and why I disagree with a few of these, and why I think they did overall a pretty good job, is because everyone's version of this is slightly different. Sometimes you're projecting when you make these rankings. What will these guys be in a couple years? What's their potential? What's their ceiling? Other times when you do rankings like this, it comes down to where is a player currently at this given time when we are making this set of rankings. And on this particular 25 under 25 by the Numbers on the Board group, I feel like they intertwined and mixed some of them. It's not strictly where they're at now. Some of it's based on potential. When I tell you where Cooper Flagg is, I think it's way too high before he's ever played an NBA game, but I wouldn't be shocked if by midseason it's in the right spot. So just bear with me because I don't exactly know the parameters of which they use to make their rankings. I'll explain why I think certain guys should be elsewhere and why I think the Cavs are kind of in the right spot for the most part. I tweak it a little bit, but for the most part, they're in the right spot. As I mentioned before we even dove into this, Wemby and Anthony Edwards are the 1 and 2 in some particular order. Edwards is better now. Wemby is the higher ceiling, whatever. Those are the 1 and 2, in my opinion, and it's not even debatable. And I was thrilled to see when I checked out these rankings that Numbers on the Board had Wemby number 1 and Anthony Edwards number 2. Now I'm going to give you the next 6 players on the list, 3 through 8. And this is not in the correct order. But these are the players that are in the same grouping as Evan Mobley. And then I'll tell you the order in 1 second. But Mobley, Paolo Banchero, Tyrese Halliburton, Jalen Williams, Cade Cunningham, and Amen Thompson. So that's the next tier, basically. And when I look at those, I think there's 3 guys that are ahead of the rest. Thompson has the ceiling that may be higher than all of them if he could ever find an offensive game. Jalen Williams is coming off a terrific NBA Finals. He's an up-and-coming guy. But I think Cunningham, Mobley, and Banchero are slightly in their own tier among that tier. And when it comes to the Cade Mobley discussion, I've had this before. It's not the first time I'm saying this. As much as I love Evan Mobley, I just would always take the playmaking guard wing over the big when it's that close. And I think we're literally splitting hairs here, guys. If someone wanted to die in the hill that Mobley should be ahead of Cade Cunningham, sure. I prefer Cunningham's style. I prefer that type of player over a big. So when it's literally that close, and I'm telling you guys, it is that close, I'd go with Cunningham. And the numbers on the board pod also went. They went Cunningham 3, Mobley 4, which I 100% agree with. I would have Mobley over Banchero right now. I think he's just a more overall well-rounded player. He has less of an injury history. He's a better two-way guy. And although Paolo's a better isolation scorer, Mobley's actually the better overall shooter in every spot on the court minus the mid-range. So I would take Mobley over Banchero. The numbers on the board group had Halliburton 5, Banchero 6. I prefer Banchero over Halliburton, especially considering the Achilles injury right now. And then they have Jalen Williams at 7 and Amen Thompson at 8. Then they have Zion Williamson at 9. What the hell are you supposed to make of Zion? When he's healthy, he's incredible. He's just never healthy. He's never in shape. He could be one of the 5 best players in basketball. He also could never play more than 50 games in a season. I have absolutely no idea how to rank Zion. That's one of the ones where I feel like they went just purely off talent and not production and are trying to project maybe for the upcoming season. But I'd have Zion way lower on this list just based on the fact that I can't count on him whatsoever. They have Chet Holmgren at 10. I think that's slightly high, but I understand the spot. I think I get the idea of Chet more than I like the actual production from Chet. I thought he got exposed a little bit in the finals. I wouldn't have him at 10, but he certainly belongs in the upper echelon. Moving on, they have Scotty Barnes at 11, which I don't agree with, and I'll explain why in a second. They have Cooper Flagg at number 12, who's never played a single game in the NBA. And to me, I think it is outrageous to put a rookie who's never played a single game in the NBA above guys on this list who we are going to get to momentarily who have made All-Star and All-NBA teams. I'm sorry, Cooper Flagg could turn out to be incredible. And I do think he's going to end up being a very, very good NBA player. Like a very, 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 very good NBA player who, when he retires, will have a resume loaded with All-NBA, All-Stars, All-Defensive. Like he has that kind of potential. But until he plays a game, like one singular game in the NBA, I just can't put him at 12 on the best players under 25. That's too much of a projection for me. I don't think it's crazy if we end the season and talk about Cooper Flagg in that range, but I think it's way too early for Cooper Flagg at 12. They have Tyrese Maxey at 13. They have Alperen Sengun at 14. They have Asar Thompson at 15, the twin of Amen Thompson, who came in earlier. They have Franz Wagner at 16, LaMelo Ball at 17, Jalen Johnson at 18, Darius Garland at 19, and Andrew Nembhard at 20. I think this, honestly, Zion through here, so 9 through 20. And actually, I'm going to cut out Andrew Nembhard at 20 because I don't think he belongs above some of the guys below him. I just don't think he's in that same tier. That 9 to 19 range of 11 players really comes down to preference. What do you want in a player? What do you not want in a player? I think it's really hard to make a case for any of those guys to be above the top 8. I think they nailed the top 8. I disagree with the order slightly, but it's the right 8 guys. It's this 9 to 19 range where I have some issues. If you want to say Holmgren's the best of those guys, I kind of disagree. I think I'd rather have Sengun. I love Franz Wagner. I really like Tyrese Maxey, even though I know some of the advanced analytics don't match up. But for the sake of this, let's take them out of the equation because Holmgren's at 10. The question is, where does Darius fall into this list? Is he at the bottom of the 11-player range from Zion to Chet, Scotty, Cooper Flagg, Maxey, Sengun, Asar Thompson, Franz Wagner, LaMelo, Jalen Johnson? No, I don't believe he is at the bottom of that list. I think he's in the middle of that list. And if I was the overseer of making this top 25 ranking, maybe I'll put out my own on Twitter here the next day or two. I think I'd have Darius in the 13, 14, 15 range. And if I wake up tomorrow, it'd be 13. If I wake up the next day, maybe 15. It comes down to a lot of preference. But I think the guys I'd put ahead of Darius Garland. And once again, I have no freaking clue what to do with Zion. So he's going below. Holmgren would be above Darius. Sengun would be above Darius. Franz Wagner would be above Darius. And I think I'd take Maxey over Darius. I think. I go back and forth on that one. Jalen Johnson was so good in Atlanta last season, but He has half a season of elite production, and then he got hurt. I'm going to put him just below Darius for now until he does it for a little bit longer. But I think at the end of the season, he'll be a guy that catapults up this list. Asar Thompson is an incredible defensive player, but his offensive game is even worse than his twin brothers, and his twin brother still has a long way to go. I understand the wing, the length, the size, the defensive capacity, but Darius, I understand he got hurt in the playoffs, and I understand he did not have the end of the season that the Cavs needed and or wanted. He was still arguably the most clutch player in the NBA last year. He was their closer for a 64-win team. He was the catalyst of that offense, the kind of the engine. I know Donovan gets the most headlines and we talk the most about Mobley, but Darius was the unsung hero that allowed Cleveland to play its style of basketball night in and night out, getting everyone else involved, while also upping his three-point volume, his three-point efficiency, and his overall play. I think I have Darius in that 14 range. He's definitely above Scotty Barnes in my head. I can't put Cooper Flagg ahead of him. Şengün, Maxey, Franz Wagner, those guys are ahead. I'll give you Holmgren. So that gives you 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. He's right in that 13, 14, 15 range. If you really wanted to, if you like, I've told you all before, I don't love LaMelo Ball's game. He's probably more talented than Darius. I would prefer Darius over him. Scotty Barnes is a bigger playmaking wing. I just don't trust his jump shot. I think that severely limits where he's kind of put on this echelon. Asar Thompson, that's a projection, like maybe by the end of the season. But if we're going off where you're at right now, I think Darius is ahead of Jalen Johnson, LaMelo Ball, Asar Thompson, Cooper Flagg, Scotty Barnes, and Zion. I have no freaking clue what to do with. So that's their top 20. Their 21 through 25 is Tyler Hero, Denny Advia, Jaden McDaniels, Dyson Daniels, and Brandon Miller. I think it's a pretty good overall list. We're arguing the order within tiers, which means if that's my biggest complaint, they did a pretty darn good job. But my official rankings, Wemby 1, Edwards 2, Cunningham 3, Mobley at number 4, Paolo Banchero at 5, Jalen Williams at 6, Amen Thompson at 7, Tyrese Halliburton at 8. Halliburton would be ahead of Jalen and Amen if he was healthy. The issue is obviously he tore his Achilles. He will be out for the upcoming season. So I do have to knock him down slightly because of that. I think that's your clear top 8, though. Moving on, in some order, I'd put Franz Wagner at 9, Şengün at 10, Maxey at 11. Yeah, I'd have Darius at 12. If I'm doing it right now, I'd have Darius at 12, Johnson at 13, Barnes at 14, Asar Thompson at 15, LaMelo at 16. I forgot Chet Holmgren. That's who I forgot. Excuse me. So bump everyone down. I'd have Franz at 9, Holmgren 10, Şengün 10, Holmgren 11, Maxey 12, Darius 13, Johnson 14, and then you could fill in the rest: Barnes, Flagg, LaMelo, all the way down to Nembhard. So I think pretty unquestionably the Cavs have two of the top 15, 25 under 25 players in the NBA. That's a pretty damn good place to be. Now, has either Darius or Evan reached their full ceiling? I don't think so, which makes what they can do in the future even more promising. Got a couple reads to get to before we get to our next topic. August 26th is officially FanDuel's Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown a Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets right now, because Futures Day is a one-day only event. FanDuel, play your game when you want it. And also, how about Game Time, guys? We are a proud sponsor of Game Time. You should use the Game Time app to get your tickets whenever, wherever, whenever. Using the Game Time app, use Game Time promo code LOCKEDON to get $20 off your first purchase. That is, download the Game Time app. Use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. What time is it? It is game time, ladies and gentlemen. All right, last thing I wanted to touch on this morning is Lonzo Ball. And I was having some conversations with some people, not only within the Cavs organization, but with some teams around the league who say that I am underestimating the impact Lonzo Ball can have on the Cleveland Cavaliers this season. Granted, everything I'm about to say in the next 3 minutes comes with a giant grain of salt, which is if he's healthy. We've detailed his injury history. We've detailed the fact that he's played 70 games in the last 4 years. All of this comes with a giant caveat of, can Lonzo stay healthy? But after talking to a couple different people around the league, both from, like I said, with the Cavs to teams all the way in the Western Conference, they could not be more excited to add somebody with Lonzo's IQ into their offense. The offensive scheme that Kenny Atkinson brought here to Cleveland last year, it's not super complex, but there's a lot of little nuances that you can continue to peel back layers of the onion on to unlock different looks and get guys in certain situations where they are at their best. For example, like you want Evan Mobley going downhill, right? You want Donovan attacking defenders in retreat. You want Darius getting switches in high pick and roll situations so he can attack a bigger defender. There's all these little nuances within the basic principles of what Kenny wants to run that made the Cavs the most efficient, second most efficient offense the NBA has ever seen last year. And granted, partly because they shot the absolute shit out the ball, but overall, it's a pretty basic offensive philosophy that was executed at a high level. Now, when you add someone like Lonzo Ball to the mix, who his best trait is his IQ, just like an elite quarterback in the NFL, there are certain players on a basketball court that just see things before they happen. They can see the play develop in a way that others simply can't. It's an inherent skill. It's not something you could really teach. Go and watch Steve Nash, Jason Kidd, Rajon Rondo, the best passers that I've seen in my lifetime. LeBron is like this. Jokic is like this. You ever wonder, how did they see? They know what the defender's going to do before the defender can react. And Lonzo fits into that category. And within this Cavs offensive system, I've said from the get-go, I'll say it again, I think they ended up bringing in Lonzo Ball to pair him with Evan Mobley on the second unit to force Evan to be more of an offensive creator and an offensive initiator, because that's not what Lonzo particularly wants to do. He wants to get others involved. But it's not just Evan Mobley. Lonzo is going to allow Donovan and Darius and Sam Merrill and Max Strus and Tyrese Proctor and all their other shooters to use more ball screens, or more off-ball screens, use more motion, cut more. Why? Because if they get open for even the slightest of seconds, the ball will be delivered into their shooting pocket in rhythm and on time. And it's not a knock on Ty Jerome, but that just wasn't what Ty Jerome was as a player. He was a score first, shoot first offensive player. That's the way his mind was wired. And he was really good at it last year for Cleveland. And it's just the complete opposite of how Lonzo is wired. And when you bring in a guy who's that smart, and I'm going to use the word supercomputer because that's the word of the day here in Cleveland based off what we just saw from Dylan Gabriel on Saturday in his preseason debut. He's a supercomputer, right? Well, it doesn't translate. Being a supercomputer doesn't necessarily translate into stats, but sometimes it's about making the right play. And this is, and by the way, I'm not talking about Dylan Gabriel anymore. I'm not. This is back strictly to basketball. So this is about making the right play. And the right play can be the pass before the pass. It can be the pass that sets up the assist. It can be the pass that leads to a better angle for a screen, that then leads to a better angle for the ball handler to attack. And I think Lonzo Ball is going to come into Cleveland and do all those little things and unlock all of those little things that can make the Cavs offense even more efficient, even more dynamic, and frankly, even more explosive than it was last year. I'm not exactly sure how they're going to use him. I'm not exactly sure how many minutes Lonzo is going to play. But the fact that the Cavs, I say they, the Cavs, now have a 6'5", long defender on the perimeter who has taken pride in his defense over the course of his career, who is an unselfish offensive player that is going to make the right play 97 out of 100 times, makes everyone else's life 10 times easier. And I think Lonzo is going to be a very good fit in Cleveland. And after talking to people across the league, I think I'm even underestimating the impact Lonzo could have on the Cavs this upcoming season. And it may not be in the box score. Lonzo may end up averaging 5 points and 4 assists per game and 3 rebounds. And it looks very generic and vanilla. And unless you're watching the game, you may not notice it. So don't make yourself a Lonzo box score watcher. You will be missing the big picture if you're simply looking at the stats. Lonzo has a chance to unlock layers of this offense that simply they were not able to unlock last year. I don't exactly know what those look like yet, but I sure as hell can't wait to find out. Couple comments real quick. Devontae Smith Cowsett says, let's go Cavs. He also says, I'm taking Mobley. Anthony says, could Cooper Flagg be a top 5 player in the league? Sure, at some point, yeah. I mean, I think he's really, 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 really damn good. And at some point, I do think he could be a top 5 player in the league. But right now, before he's ever played an NBA game, like, I just can't put him ahead of some guys that have made all NBA teams. Like, it's just too premature in my mind. And Mr. King says, good morning, Mike. What's up to you guys? I appreciate everyone for tuning in this morning. Jason was unable to join us, but he will be on the UCSS panel today at 11 o'clock. It is G. Bush, Dustin Fox, and Jason Lloyd. I'm behind the glass. We got Ant and Earl back there with me, and we will see you then at 11 o'clock. Appreciate you guys tuning in. And remember, go Cavs. Peace.